4:30. It's now 4:34. So as the chair, I will call the Smart Growth Steering Committee January meeting to order. Attendance being myself, Mark Dunn, Ronnie Williams, Kishore Parmar. Online, we have Andrew Gnatic, and we are expecting Randy Isaac for a full, and then we have Ayla Lubriel, and we have the esteemed Aiden, last name. It's hyphenated last name.
Yeah, Hemian McMahon.
Hemian McMahon.
That's right.
Even though it says Alex Lamarche.
From PVPC. Happy New Year, everyone. I'm glad to see everyone's looking in good health. The last meeting we had was maybe early December.
Sorry.
And that was maybe just before or right around when Kyle left. So I think we had Abe and Kyle for a couple meetings, maybe November and December, I can't remember. So I am happy to turn it over to you, Aiden.
Sure.
When you are ready.
Yeah, I'm almost ready. I'm just making sure I can share my screen here. So share.
And we have two documents that you shared, hard copies, as I had requested. We can put that with the minutes. We'll get Kayla digital copies so we can post that with the minutes. All the information that we are working on. One is the guidebook, creating design standards for 40-yard districts. That, I believe, comes from the state.
Yeah.
And then we have the Hadley Village Center Overlay District Design Guidelines. That comes from Hadley. Going back 12 years to February of 2014.
Yeah, the state one is even older. That's from 2008.
Yeah. Okay.
So they're pretty old. Here, I'll turn off my camera. Okay. Okay. Well, thanks for that introduction. Hi, everybody. Great to be back with you all. It's been a little while. And sorry for the delay. Last month, as you all know, I was pretty sick, but all set now. So I was thinking, so since this is the first meeting in a while, especially as far as meetings that I've attended, I thought it might be helpful to go through a few things. Starting off with a review of the draft 40R bylaw, which you all, I believe at this point, you should all have access to. I know there's a couple snags, but hopefully everything's good now. I have a link, which I was beginning to pull out sections to talk about, but honestly, there doesn't seem to be all that much left. Or correct me if I'm wrong here, please, because I haven't heard the latest conversation. But it seems like a lot of it has been close to finalized, if not finalized. And Kyle has some comments in the margins, and I thought it might make sense to honestly just look at those as a group and have the discussions that we still need to have about those, and kind of just get my bearings too as to how everybody's feeling about the state of it, and then I can maybe go in and start more or less finalizing sections. I just wanted to get everybody's input before I start doing that. But my understanding from speaking with Kyle a while ago now is that we're almost at that point, or we're pretty close, if not there already. So I thought we would do that, if that sounds like a good plan, for probably the majority of this meeting, although I'm flexible in some ways on what we want to tackle here, because I also wanted to just briefly touch on a conversation that me and Kyle had with Bill Rail of the EOHLC to answer a few questions. I have Kyle's notes here as a printed copy that I can read out, but also I have some takeaways on a slide. Then I talked to Mark recently, just briefly, about what we still want to do. And one thing that we touched on was defining those district boundaries. I know that we have a sense, or a pretty good sense, I think, of where we're at, but I don't think that we are quite there yet. So I have just as a reminder, some of the feedback we got from the community engagement we did, like way back when. I think this is probably too ambitious for this meeting, but I did bring a map that we could draw on if people really wanted to get into it, but I realize that might be too much for this meeting. And then at the very end, I want to discuss design standards, which is why I brought along those two documents. I don't know how far we'll get with that conversation today. Maybe just touch on it, and then hopefully we can all review these documents and kind of think more about it. And when we meet next, we can maybe get into the weeds on that.
And what are other maps that we had during the session?
PVPC, I think got those. I mean, you brought them, I think.
Yeah. Well,
Oh, okay.
yeah, I have them. I have them. And yeah, so I have an image of a marked up one, and then I have another one that we didn't mark up. So
Okay.
if we wanted to, we could do that too.
Yeah, I was thinking that we should tackle that, boundaries, at kind of two scales, like kind of at the macro, from this street to that street, and then zoom in and get the parcels so that we don't, cut right through a parcel of land. We should then get in and detail it
Yeah.
to an accurate level, so.
Yeah, I agree. And the map that I have, the big map, well, it's big, so it does, and it has the parcel outlines.
Okay.
But also, we can always do that virtually. I could send you a map that has that, or we can figure out how we want to tackle that. But it is there today, and I've got markers if we want to do that. But to start things off, like I said, I was thinking we could look through the draft bylaw. Hopefully this isn't too painstaking of a process, but hopefully, yeah, I have some questions here as well. What types of residential does the committee want to allow in the East District? And what are the standards and conditions for that? As you'll see, there's a table that Kyle put in. And you may have already seen this if you've looked at the document, but it's basically blank. And there's a standards and conditions column. So I was just wondering what the conversation had been about that as we start to fill that in. There's another question about mixed use with multifamily, the height on that, minimum parking requirements. Anyway, I can just get into, these are all in the, oh, you can't see that, but these are all in the document. Oh. All right, it's hitting me with a surprise. Sign in, I just have to sign into my phone.
Next to.
Okay. All right, let me just see if I can share the screen here. Stop share and share. Yes.
I just texted Randy in case he still thought it was at 5 o'clock.
Okay. This is a pretty small screen. Is there any way to make this larger?
Yeah, can we X out of that bottom part?
I might need to do it on.
Yeah.
No, it's just computer.
Okay, and then maybe we can even. Oh, I was thinking you
Yeah.
could make that smaller, but
Yeah, it's gonna keep that.
okay, that's fine. That's fine. I can also enlarge on here.
Right, if you zoom in.
Zoom in.
Yeah. Okay. Is that
There you
okay? There's a bit of a delay. All right, this might be a little clunkier than I'd envisioned, but let's try.
So what page are we going to?
So I'm going to the first area with,
It's red lines.
well, the red line, a lot of the red line text is, I don't know if it's still a conversation to have. I was thinking we might focus on just the, where Kyle had comments. The red line text, I think, is just all the text that was added that isn't part of the default, like the template. So that's just everything that's specific to the conversations that you all have had.
Mhm.
So hopefully a lot of that is already kind of understood. Okay, so this is actually the first question that I was wondering about. So there's this table here on page 10. And it's for all residential uses. Let me back up a little bit more. There we go. And there's an east
So this is
and west.
I'm trying to find when that was sent to us.
Oh, I can send it again if that's easier.
Yeah, I'm just going back through my emails, trying to find, share a file. Is this, working? Yeah. So I've got this, I can,
Yeah, that would be it. I think it starts with working.
yeah, working, Harry, I believe.
Yeah, that's what happened to me.
Okay, sorry. All right, and that should put us in. I can say, this code is not valid. Okay. Oh, I forgot the last digit. Let's try that. Sorry. Okay, I'm in, so we're.
Okay, so we're on page 10. It starts with a table here. You can see it on the
I
screen.
didn't mean to zoom that much. Okay, sorry.
No, you're fine. Okay, so yeah, so hi. The idea here is we have this table up here, which is, shows things permitted by right is a P, permitted with planning board approval is a PA, and then not permitted is an N.
Tori?
No,
Anyway, I'll catch you later.
Oh, okay.
I have a key.
Okay. Oh,
Sorry.
oh, no, that's fine. Yeah, so basically we've got this table here. Kyle highlighted this in the comment saying that this is a priority for this meeting, was to fill out this table. But I was looking at it and honestly, I'd like your guidance on what you've discussed, regarding which residential uses you'd like to see permitted in these districts. The only one that Kyle had put in was an N for multifamily dwellings for the West District.
So the District was the district that was from where?
The West District is the central district, so I want to say we were taking it from maybe West Street up to
Bridge.
the tunnel.
Spruce or something like that.
Yeah, maybe Spruce,
Spruce Hill?
yeah,
Okay.
somewhere in there. I'd have to check.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, but I think it's the idea is that it's sort of the town center
Yeah.
district. And so I think with that in mind, Kyle would put an N for multifamily, 4+ dwelling units. I honestly just filled in the rest of this because based on not that much, based on what I remembered from our discussions and notes, but I want to make sure that this seemed accurate to all of you.
Just to remind me, so P is permitted and PA is,
Plan approval. Permit, so yeah, it says it up here. It's P is use permitted by right in the district. PA is use permitted with plan approval in the district from the planning board in accordance with section 9. That's what it reads.
And then is
Yeah.
not permitted whatsoever.
Exactly, yeah.
okay.
So
So we have the attached single-family townhouses permitted in both. the detached, single-family dwellings requires approval in the east, because the east we're looking more dense.
That was I put that in, but I don't know if that's what you all think, but that was my thought. And everything else is permitted, and then I just put plan approval in the west for 3-family dwellings. But I don't know if that sounds appropriate to all of you.
To me, it really depends on where exactly we're talking about
Mm-hmm.
within that district. But we have no way of doing that ahead of
Should we
time.
just leave it as PA for now?
Well, that
Oh,
was my
yeah,
thought.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, you put it
That's
as
a good
PA.
idea, yeah.
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 It can allow some discretion, I
Yeah.
think. And then there's a standards and conditions column, which I wasn't sure what standards and conditions you had in mind, or what Kyle had in mind when he created that column.
I think some of the items might be. I don't know if he's thinking that it's also gotta fit in. Now, after this, it's been a while, if
Yeah.
it's got fit in the senior overlay. Yeah, is there something regarding that?
If it's the design guideline,
Yeah.
we were kind of thinking 2 design guidelines, one for this village center.
Right.
Yeah.
And, and that was more, traditional, conservative, whatever you wanted to.
Yeah.
And then a little looser, more modern, dense in the eastern district.
Yeah.
But maybe that's not what standards and conditions.
I don't think so. Not here, because I think everything within those districts will have to abide by the design standards.
So I'm not sure what he
Yeah,
meant by standards, conditions.
I put this in, Kyle didn't write this, I did, for the standards and conditions for multifamily dwellings. That they're not allowed in the east. Or wait, is that right? I may have gotten confused when I wrote this, actually. I think that maybe there's contradictory things in this document in some places,
Okay.
and I think what I meant was the west.
Yeah.
So here we have,
The west is the village center, which is not as dense,
right,
it's more traditional,
right, but
so that might be the west.
would you allow multifamily in the west as part of a mixed use project or not?
I don't know if we talked about that. I mean, I think the concern that I remember when we get into the west is the scale.
Yeah,
Is, that has a more, 2-story scale?
Yeah,
And then when you go to the east district or the more commercial mall area, 3 to 4 stories was not. And I don't know if we even said 2 to 3 stories in the village center.
I think that there is a section further down which has a comment which I think gets to the height. But what I'm thinking of here, what I had envisioned, because you're defining multifamily as 4+ dwelling units. You could have a store on the bottom and then 4 units above that, and it could just be 2 stories. And if you put no for the west, that wouldn't be allowed because it's 4 units.
Would the standards and conditions be focused at the density? Would that make sense? I'm not sure, yeah.
I don't know. It could be because I think that Kyle was probably using this as like a catch-all column. Because if you wanted to do something like limit multifamily to like no more than a certain number of units in one of the districts, I suppose you could put that as under the standards and conditions column,
Yeah, I'm envisioning that the West District or the village center I remember we looked at, we were talking about the missing middle, the kind of infill, but still in that scale to maintain the context, the fabric of the town. And then it was kind of a whole different scale and density over by the north and south Maple.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Is it 4 plus, does that mean more than 4 or even 4?
I think I'm interpreting it as reading 4 or more.
I don't have a problem with 4, certainly.
And what is DU? Is that dwelling unit or duplex? What is?
Dwelling unit,
Dwelling unit.
Yeah.
So there's, so.
typically DU.
So up in the third one, you've got conversion of single family.
Dwelling unit to
unit
two
two
family.
family.
Single families.
Two family dwellings, duplex, three family dwellings, duplex. Single family. Versions. Yes, so that's what those categories are. Yeah,
Yeah, if we don't have if there's no clear answer to like what was meant by this column, standards and conditions,
Yeah.
we don't need to think of a reason why it needs to exist.
yeah,
We can also we can leave it blank. It's helpful for me to just know that there wasn't maybe even a particular thought. Maybe it is just something that doesn't need to be there necessarily if we don't have a purpose for it. So we don't need to dwell on it, but I was just wondering.
yeah,
Yeah,
doesn't seem like Kyle to just throw something in there random, but I'm just not remembering, I guess.
It might be also just a
It was
standard,
off.
standard table he's just using, but, or just a placeholder if we want to put notes or think of something.
sure, yeah.
Yeah, it could be a state standard coming from, the, East Shore where urban complexities
Mhm.
need to be handled.
Yeah, that's possible.
Right now in Hadley, in general, you can't take a 1 family and make it a 2 family, right?
I don't think so.
I can seem to remember that, so
Mhm.
this is a change
Yeah,
in smart growth.
Right.
In this overlay, that allows you to do things that we otherwise, the blanket is 1 unit, 1 lot.
Mhm. Okay, all right, for now, let's maybe move down a little bit. We can come back to that if we need to. This was a comment on page 11, I don't think it needs any thought necessarily from us, it's just saying that commercial parking facility is already a permitted use. Because I know that was a discussion at one point about parking garages. But it's sort of saying that it's actually already allowed in the underlying use of the underlying district.
Yeah, I kind of remember us talking about a parking garage and saying, we don't really need to be too restrictive because we really didn't foresee any project sizably enough to amortize the cost of the,
Right.
it's millions, it's tens of millions of dollars to build a parking garage.
Yeah, but there's no reason to restrict it just because it's
Right.
unlikely.
Right.
It's probably not gonna happen. So on page 13, this was the next. I wanted to just confirm that this was actually taken care of. I couldn't tell from the comments. The question here was, I think maybe this is like the default text. It says for all projects containing at least 13 residential units, not less than 20% of housing units constructed shall be affordable housing. There was a commentary that said 13 plus seems too large a project to set as a minimum for requiring affordable units. And then there's a comment below that from Kyle that says projects of 4 or fewer units shall have a minimum of 1 affordable unit. Projects with 5 or more would require 20% of units to be affordable. Does that ring a bell? Is that what you all turned down? Feel is like appropriate?
Again, I don't remember, but that does sound like something we might have discussed.
Yes,
So one of the
Yeah.
first 4, and then after, when you go 5 and above, it's 20%.
yeah,
Yeah. So I can make that change. Kyle wrote as a comment, but didn't make the change, so I wasn't sure if there was more discussion.
And then when we get to the brass tacks, I think there'd have to be a clause in there that whether you round up or down. So if you have 6, do you need 2? 6,
so I thought we had that in there because we got to the point where we're like 3.
yeah.
I think we said it's 4 or fewer. I thought we had verbiage on, it was like 5 or fewer, or or fewer, then it like rounds.
I'm not seeing that in here, but yeah, so you were saying, I can just include it. So you were saying if would you mind just repeating that?
I forgot if it was regarding, I think 5 or fewer units, then we started going by numbers. We didn't go by percentage.
Okay.
We went, if it's 5, it's like you need at least 2. If it's 3, you need at least 1.
Yeah. Yes, so I think what we're saying is if it's 4 or 5 units, you need one affordable, and greater than that, you need 20%. So that means if you're doing 1, 2, or 3, you don't need to provide an affordable. I can hear developers pushing back on, 1 out of 4, but then do 1 out of 5,
So,
you're at 20%.
okay, so just to make sure I'm clear, so this comment from Kyle says projects with 4 or fewer units shall have a minimum of 1 affordable unit. That to me would mean that even if you have 2 units,
If you
one
have
has,
1, it's affordable. If you have 2, yeah,
Right.
right,
then half have to be affordable, if
Oh.
one is one of the 2.
yeah.
So that's, what do you, I mean, because what you were saying, I think, was
No,
you
that's
have up
not-
to 4.
That sounds good, man. A developer would scream.
If you have 1 unit, it
Yeah.
has to be affordable.
And the problem is, if we make it that you don't need 1 until you get to 4, we're gonna get a bunch of 3s.
That is
Yeah.
typically what happens, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, so what if we say, um, 1 through 9 units, you have 1 affordable. 10 through 19 units, you have 2. Because that's 20% rounding down. I'm not mistaken, I guess it would go up to. Yeah, because you wouldn't hit 2 until you get to 10.
Right.
You get 3 at 15, yeah. So 10 to 14, you would have 2 affordable. 15 to 19, you would have 3. 20 to, yeah, so like every 5.
And when would you be starting? At what number?
Well, I was saying 1 to 9 units, you need 1 affordable. Then when you hit 10, 20% of 10 is 2. So if you're calculating 20%, I'm going with the integer, not the decimal. I'm dropping the decimal. I'm not rounding up at all.
Mm-hmm.
That's one way. Or we could say, when you get over X 0.5, then you go up to the next,
But you're saying if you have 1 unit, then it has to be affordable.
that's the way it was written. Or is that the way Kyle's note was written? That
That's
was,
why Kyle's note is written.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's. It's up for debate, but I would say that would be the idealistic way to go,
Mhm.
and start with that until we get strong pushback,
But nobody bites.
because if we don't push for affordable, who will? So if we start with that, and if, we were talking about having more town feedback when we, before we take this to put it on a town warrant, that we would get at least one more interaction with the public. So we were thinking about pushing this to at least the fall.
Okay.
So that's, that would be my first thought, but I'm open to any of you, Andrew, and any other thoughts.
No, that sounds good to me. I think we kind of just need more input. It's like a good placeholder until we get more input from the town.
And I think the town. Well, the people that lean to the left will be pro that. And people that think that affordable housing brings crime and crap will be against that. And I would imagine anyone who's a developer would say that's, but, yeah, okay. This is our chance to try and do right.
Okay, great. So yeah, I'll make that change. I'll put that in there and we'll see how people feel about it. Okay. This one looks like you decided so this was around age restrictions. It was,
What page is it?
sorry, page 19.
Because I thought we couldn't have age restriction.
You can, yeah, well, so it says here, nothing in this section shall permit the imposition of restrictions on age on projects unless proposed or agreed to voluntarily by the applicant. However, in its review of a submission, blah, 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 the PAA may allow a specific project designated exclusively for the elderly, persons with disabilities, or for assisted living, provided any such project shall be in compliance with all applicable federal and state and local fair housing laws and regulations, and not less than 25% of the housing units in such a restricted project shall be restricted as affordable housing units.
Okay, so in other words, we can't tell them that it's restricted, but if the developer, if the proponent wants to do an age restriction, that's how I read that, right?
Yeah,
Certain classes, I think.
Yeah.
right, exactly. Yeah, and I just, this comment was here that just said East Hampton had its minimum at 30%, and it looked like you all settled back in September to hold at 25%. And if you all agree with that, I will just resolve this comment. I just wanted to make sure that everybody's in agreement. Okay, so I can move on.
Yeah.
So,
Well, wait a minute, not less than 25%. Does that conflict with the 20% that we just had?
oh, hold on, we can go back to it.
And not less than 25% of housing units in such a restricted project shall be restricted as a whole. Oh, okay. So this is saying if you choose to age restrict your housing, correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah, no,
5.9 is saying, if you choose as the applicant to go with, senior housing, then you own not 20%, but 25% must be of,
that's my understanding.
Okay.
Yeah, based on what I'm reading. Yeah, and East Hampton had theirs at 30, so I think there was a discussion at some point, but you're holding at 25. So, okay, great. So so on page 20, we have this big table here. It's all filled in, but there are just some comments in the margins. One comment is, and this is for multifamily dwellings. It says, for multifamily and mixed use in the west subdistrict, perhaps the planning board would allow up to 3 stories if the design aligns with existing village center design standards, question mark.
from the 2.5.
Yeah, it's at 2.5 right now. So the question was, would the planning board, I don't know, be okay with that? Yes. So it's a question for the planning. board.
Yeah, that's kind of,
Yeah.
it's kind of like what we just were doing last
Yeah,
night. We're
yeah.
saying what did we call for? 42 feet or something, and we were gonna accept 49 feet, so,
Oh, okay.
if it met with the pleasure of the planning board.
Yeah. Okay. Was the thought to maybe change this from 2.5 to 3 and then see what the planning board thinks about that? Or
I don't know that. Randy just texted that he's not coming. He said, select will double done.
Oh. And this is why I had that comment earlier, because, in the table with the standards and conditions, the table says, right, it says the West Subdistrict does not allow multifamily.
Which is the
Kyle had written in
central.
N, yeah, the central, the town center, and then here, he has a comment, this is why I said there's a bit of a contradiction.
Mhm.
He has a comment that says, for multifamily and mixed use in the West Subdistrict. So,
He's 50 feet for sure. And that, multi, I mean, this is the west.
If they're part of a mixed-use project, though.
right, which is why I wrote that little note that says multifamily is allowed as
If
part
it's
of
a
the mixed use. It's
use.
not allowed on its own, it's my understanding. Although I don't know, if you won't feel that way, but that's my read on.
Yeah, do you remember Kishore or Ronnie, us discussing that and what the thoughts were? I mean, I like pushing mixed use and mixed use, I don't know, would the developer, would a landlord make more off the commercial first floor than they would off of the dwelling unit floors and,
Yes and no. I mean, it's always
depends on the use.
yeah, and what the terms are.
And if it's a mom and pop selling herbs, probably not so
Yeah.
much, but if it's,
Yeah.
you know, if it's a hot table,
But usually it's, commercial is
yeah.
more beneficial.
Okay, so there's two outstanding questions here. One is, does the committee want to put in 3 stories in the West District for this particular option of multifamily with mixed use? It seems like. I'm not, and I don't know what the conversation was that led to this comment, but so that's question number 1. And then question number 2 is, do you want to allow multifamily mixed use at all? Or that's the number 1 question,
Yeah.
actually.
Mixed use, I think we should allow.
Yeah,
That's just my perspective.
Mhm.
So we don't lose our commercial part of our town.
sure,
And,
yeah, makes sense.
The only thing is like, from the development side, this is like 2.5 stories doesn't get you anything.
Mhm.
So usually we go by stories and then max height allowed.
Stories and height.
Yeah, so it might be beneficial. We got to put the height, we didn't put the feet in there.
Yeah, we
So-
do, we have feet here, 35.
But for mixed use, I would always go 3 stories. That's just my,
Okay.
Does that mean it needs to have an elevator?
Yeah.
I don't know what
Don't know.
triggers that.
I mean, but if it's gonna be residential,
Mhm.
so it'll be a 3rd floor walk-up?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's,
I'm not familiar with the IRC. That's the International Residential Code, because I do
Yeah.
everything in the IBC, which is, basically commercial. And if you have 2 stories, you have to have an elevator,
Yeah,
unless you have a walk-in.
yeah. I would also say that in general, I mean, thinking about, this is just saying what's allowed and whether or not it's profitable, whether or not they, the developer wants to put in an elevator if they need to. That's we have no say in whether or not the developer needs to do that if it's 3 stories. And if they find that it's not financially feasible, then they won't do it. But we're just giving them the ability.
Yeah, so I guess I'm not opposed to the upper one doing max. That's the smart group zone. Yeah, that doesn't. The upper one does not differentiate between the east and the west.
Yeah, I know, which is confusing. I just noticing that too. But it must be, referring to the west.
Yeah, I think
Because
it's
the comments
to the
referring to the
west.
west, and then below it, we have area requirements.
Yeah,
So I think. And yeah, so I think it is weird that it doesn't say anything.
oh, area requirements for the east. On the next page.
So it doesn't,
Area
yeah,
So it seems like there should be a height and density.
there needs to be a separate
A
table.
separate
I
height
think there
density
needs to be
chart.
two.
Yeah,
And this, so, okay, so yeah,
so let's make this one the west,
yeah,
and then we can do,
Which one, the first one?
yeah, that first one, let's just have west, smart,
west.
and then we'll duplicate that and change the numbers, for the east.
Yeah. Okay,
That's cool. That I'm logged in to some server somewhere and he's typing and he's logged in.
No,
Let's go to the
See what's happening. Yeah, I know, right?
in real time.
It is.
I'm just showing my age.
No, it's kind of mind blowing, think about it. All right, so I'm gonna just duplicate this table. We don't need to, I can also do
Right,
this on my own time. I don't want to spend time doing this,
right.
just, I lost my H. Okay, so, oops. Height, and then this will be east. All right, and I'm not gonna mess with it for now, but do we have, before I do like get into creating this table, it's unfortunate that I actually I don't know what was decided upon for the heights in the east. I don't know if there's any like record of this somewhere.
I think we had a conversation, or we were trying to have a conversation with the fire chief.
49 feet.
49 feet is the maximum.
Well, and they're waiting for their new
ladder,
truck, yeah.
Yeah. which goes, I think, around 100.
Well,
So,
by the time anything was built in this district, I assumed they would have their fire
I
truck.
have that truck.
Yeah.
They may not have fire department though.
Yeah. That's enough.
Well, anyway, we don't need to
Yeah,
necessarily get into that right now, but so this table needs to be essentially created. That's good to know. Okay. Okay, different, dimensional requirements. Okay, and then to go back quickly to the west height, we were saying 3 stories is okay for mixed use and multifamily,
I think instead of the 2.5,
except, yeah,
if you guys. I think 3 stories seems more practical.
it seems more practical to me.
Definitely.
Otherwise, 2.5 just means that you have dormers in a roof, right?
Yeah,
okay, I'm gonna change it to 3.0 for both multifamily and mixed use.
So,
yeah,
Okay. And then the height would have to change as well, right? Not just stories, but also height.
yeah,
What would be an appropriate height?
3 stories and a roof. I don't know, is that kind of bump up to like 42 or something like that? If you have,
49.
let's say. 1.5 off so you're 2 feet above grade if you have steps or a ramp.
Yeah,
And that's,
but the other thing to note, Mark, is
Yeah.
this is also the floodplain.
yeah,
So
Yeah.
for, what I've seen is with the flood district changing, and people might want to go higher so they don't
yeah,
hit the flood insurance,
right.
or they minimize their flood insurance.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, I was coming up with about 42. If I go 4 feet above finished grade,
Yeah,
and then I do 8 foot ceiling and then 2 foot for structure and, ceiling. if you have HVAC or whatever, and then 8 foot and 2 foot and 8 foot and 2 foot. Then I throw 8 foot for the roof pitch.
What do you get?
I get it 10, 20, 30, 42. So,
Okay.
we adding a half a story, we go from 35 to 42. And we can run that past Chief Mike.
Sure. Good, let's put it in there for now.
Yeah,
Okay, great. That's great. And I am actually noticing that there's a comment here about the east sub-district, which said 50 feet / 4 stories based on existing max heights for industrial zone. So that's tying it to what's already allowed. We want to go above 50 feet. That's a conversation to have, but I can just put in basically 50 feet for the east
the
sub-district.
East District is out of the flood zone, are they, or no?
Oh, yes.
I can't picture, oh, yeah, it goes up right after Sam's, right.
Okay,
'Cause it's pretty flat until you get to Sam's outdoor store.
Yeah.
Then you go up that hill. Up by Randy's office. And whatever that. South Spruce, Pine, whatever.
so I'm gonna resolve this comment. I just got that twice. Okay, great. That's really helpful. I think that's everything here. So this table looks like it's essentially completed. I'll just change these all to say 50 and 4.
So we were giving them 3-story and 42 feet if they're doing mixed use or multifamily, but if they're a 2-family or single family converted to 2-family, that they still get the 2.5, which.
Yeah, so that would be 42 feet in the West District multifamily. So I just, and that means I'm gonna go back while I'm thinking of it and change that other table. Because we had it as, for some reason, Kyle put no under allowing multifamily in the West District, but
Okay.
clearly we are allowing it.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say plan approval.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. And I'm gonna remove this comment. Okay,
Required minimum residential density. 20 unit per acre. That doesn't change. I'm just looking at the.
oh, yeah, those are set by 40R. Those are the
Okay.
40R minimums for the different use types, so,
Okay.
yeah.
That's from the state,
You could always make them higher, but those are the minimums.
right?
Okay, excellent. So let's see. Okay, so now let's go to, I think this may have been in the last question, the last kind of larger question. It's on page 23. Parking requirements.
Too drastic a difference.
Yeah, so what he's highlighting is there shall be no minimum parking requirements. Is that?
That's gonna, yeah. Well, we're already saying that parking needs to be behind or next to, it can't be in front, right?
Right,
We're trying to bring the living units forward to define a streetscape. Yeah. Off-street parking shall be provided maximum in the ratio shall be no minimum.
and it's saying, that the maximum number of parking spaces you can have for a 1-bedroom unit is 1. You cannot have 2 parking spaces for a 1-bedroom unit. That's what it's saying. And I think that 40R actually requires that there be maximums. Doesn't say they have to be
Okay.
these don't have to be the numbers, but it says there have to be maximums.
Mm.
And they heavily encourage something along the lines of they heavily encourage having no minimum.
Mm.
But this, 40R is designed for urban spaces.
Right.
So
What do you think of the minimum being 1 space per unit? looks like they go 1.25, 1.5, 2.0. You know, because of the nature of our, you know, agrarian town, there are no parking garages, there is no T, you know,
There's a bus?
there's a
There's
bus.
the PBTA.
Was, but
Is the bus in UMass is working?
And do all the buses kneel? Do we know that?
no, but I think most of them are ADA.
Oh, I don't know, but I think so.
I thought they're ADA accessible now.
Yeah, I would imagine they probably are. But for sure.
Any thoughts on that, Andrew? We're not letting you off the hook just because you're driving.
You're still driving.
Yeah.
I'm still driving. I'm still here. Sorry.
That's okay. We didn't want to do too much distracted driving. But I did want to leave space if you had thoughts that you wanted to share.
For the parking,
Yeah,
no, I didn't really have much to say about the parking. I will backtrack and say that I did think that the 3 stories is the way to go for mixed use.
Okay, great.
good.
Okay, thank you.
What happens if you say one parking unit, one parking space per unit,
Hmm.
and people have visitors or relatives who come? and
Yeah, no, I,
They're trying to compete for spaces? or-
it does, it does say here below, the PAA plan, approval authority may allow for additional visitor parking spaces beyond the maximums if deemed appropriate. So it does allow for visitor parking, but, you know, one thought that I have is a 1-bedroom unit is often occupied by 2 people,
Yeah,
a couple or whatever, you know?
if it's a family and the kid grows up and there's, 15, 16, 17, they'll have a car too if they're
Yeah.
working or.
I'm certainly not one to push more parking in general, but it is a thought, you know?
Yeah,
I mean, I see where I am on East Street and there are 1-bedrooms with a single garage, and some of those people always have another car, either in the driveway or on the street, because they have 2 cars per unit.
Right,
And
yeah, and there's no real, well, I guess there could be off-street or on-street parking options. But some of
We
these,
don't have
or do you
any.
not? I don't really know.
we don't have any, I think
Okay,
we were talking about that at the planning board, and the only spaces that we came up with that we could picture are along the bike trail just west of Quarters. Now,
Yeah,
is that Wally or is that the other? Anyway, that last stretch of Railroad Street has like half a dozen on-street parking. I can't think of anywhere else in town where we have marked. Now,
actual
that's-
parking spaces.
Yeah, well, now I'm saying marked,
yeah,
you know, people park all along, you know, West Street or. That's actually been a problem with, Essalon and things like
so
that.
now the signs are up.
Not anymore, right?
Oh.
Hmm?
Signs are taken down?
Oh, did they take them down?
No, I don't think so, no. What Mark is saying, it's
It
not
wasn't.
that big, it's not that big of a problem anymore.
No,
Yeah.
it was, it
Yeah.
did, it did get the dander up on
Mhm.
certain members of the planning board. I would offer that we have a 1 space per unit minimum and leave a language that we can allow more.
well, you do need to have a maximum for 40R.
Well, no, you still,
Or sorry, what do you?
you still have the maximums, right?
Well, the maximums right now say, the maximum was 1 space per unit.
Right, and so if we say the minimum is 1,
Right,
then that means whether it's a 1-bedroom, a 2-bedroom, a 3-bedroom, you still have to have at least 1.
so there's a minimum, I see what you're saying, there's a minimum,
And then the maximum, there's a minimum across the board of 1,
right,
and then there's a maximum as you get more, you know,
I see. Yeah, okay. So-
assuming we have to accept those. I mean, I would almost say, if we could increase those maximums. Studio and one bedroom is, 1.5, two bedroom is 1.75 per unit. 3+ bedroom is 2. I mean, I could see, but I don't know, I don't remember if that was something that Kyle said the state would balk at. But, I would say we should maybe try to increase those maximums, because we're not Boston, we're not in the light rail or any of that.
yeah. So, I mean, there's a comment here, I'm just reading it, I'll read it out loud. To support smart growth goals and encourage alternatives to automobile travel, EUHLC requires that the smart growth district at least establish parking maximums along with any minimum parking ratios that the municipality may choose to require. Where parking minimums are deemed necessary, EUHLC encourages allowing the reduction of minimum parking requirements beyond what is commonly required, particularly for locations near transit stations, setting maximum as well as minimum parking requirements. Okay, so it's not specifying.
It's not saying that their proposed maxes are locked.
It doesn't seem like it.
Or set in
It
concrete.
seems pretty general.
So do we want to slightly bump those up?
Yeah, I have a comment here. Well, it's your comment. I said increase 0.25 per unit. Is that what you were doing? You were saying like two bedroom would be 1.5.
Yeah, two bedroom would be 1.5.
So I can make
Yeah.
that adjustment.
Three bedroom would be maybe 2.
So that would be, sorry, so studio and one bedroom would be 1.25? Oops, 1.25 and then
Yeah.
1.75. Is this following what you're saying?
Or even 2.
Or two for
Or,
three bedroom?
if you have a 3+ bedroom,
Yeah. really,
and, if you could have 4 bedrooms, you need at least 2.
Two, yeah.
yeah. Okay,
I feel a little bit better with that. Non-residential, 2 spaces per 1,000 square. That's the maximum, right?
that's what they got. That's what. See,
Yeah, I mean, because you're hoping that they walk to, well, Hadley's not,
No,
well, when your project gets built, maybe people will walk into the center of, but from there, they still have a ways to walk.
they still have a ways to walk,
Yeah,
and there's no real sidewalks from that area.
yeah.
You have to cross the street. I mean, what people do is cross the street, go on the bike path and then walk,
Yeah, you would have to walk up
or they would bike.
past the Big Y gas, past Essalon to get to the town center. But yeah, okay.
yeah,
But then again, like we discussed last night, there's not a lot of parcels.
No,
I don't think we're gonna be having a lot of large, anyway. Okay,
okay, so we're thinking, do we land on a number for the non-residential, or do we, it sounds like 2 is too low.
I think so. For 1,000 square feet. For,
It really depends what usage it is.
right,
I know.
If it's a coffee shop, you're gonna need
Right.
more.
Well, that's a good point, and that's just the way this has been written into here. But typically a bylaw will include different uses, and it might have like a parking table that specifies it by use. This is just
Well, that's
lumping
not-
everything
and
together.
that's something that we don't have yet.
Right.
In town as a planning board, that's gonna be something you're gonna be picking up off of Kyle's
Oh, you don't have a parking table?
to-do list.
Oh, I don't.
We have a blanket policy of whatever your gross square footage of your building is, you
Yeah.
need twice that number of square feet of parking. So it doesn't talk about spaces
Yeah,
or anything.
That's very.
So I've been
Yeah,
saying that,
okay.
kind of regressive, or it's kind of, we should gear it towards the different uses.
Yeah, yeah.
If you have a, 50,000 square foot warehouse, you may only need 10 people,
Right. Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, so, all right. We don't need to come to an exact number right now, but this this, I mean, we're just making a note that says this is too low.
Yeah.
Commercial, commercial, need to decide on a higher maximum.
I would say if we wanted to just put something in there as a placeholder, the non-residential could change the 2 to 4, just to start with. That might still be too low. I
Okay,
don't know.
all right, I'll include that as my comment. Changed to 4 as a placeholder, but need to review further. Okay. Okay,
And again, I suppose, I don't know, I'll have to ask the planning board. If they want to review this before they'll probably want to review it before we go to that final public interaction, you know? Because the initial stuff, I don't think they needed to review it. We were getting feedback and we were doing this.
right,
But,
Yeah,
but before we're saying it's final, they're gonna want to make sure they are on board with everything.
yeah. That'll be a whole other discussion.
Whole
Okay,
another kettle of fish.
okay, well, this has been really helpful. I think that we're at a spot where I feel more confident that I can go in and just start kind of like creating like a draft, but a finalized draft that we can all then review with everything put in, and then obviously nothing is even close to being set in stone, but we'll have numbers, we'll have things kind of, it won't all be redlined, and then we can all review it and, you know, do our own red lines. Okay?
Yeah.
So, great, the last thing here is Kyle had a comment, reference Hadley Village Center design guidelines. This is on page 32, and there's nothing to see on page 32, it's just the design standards section, which has not been filled out at all, I don't believe yet. But Kyle mentioned Hadley Village Center design guidelines, and that's a bridge to, at least just mentioning again, that you have these packets,
Yeah.
one of which is the Hadley Village Center design guidelines. So the question for all of you is, I know that you've kind of talked about this before, I think, but maybe you haven't actually, but no, oh, okay. Well, I think the idea was, from what I understood from Kyle, was for the West District, basically, I think, follow these existing village center design guidelines.
Unless there's any tweaks that we think are
Yeah, with
Necessary.
making tweaks, but
modernizations of it or something.
yeah, exactly. So, right, I can go back to
That's good.
the, oh. No, you're not seeing that. Go back to my presentation. Stop sharing and share. Window. Share. Can you see? Yeah, okay, all right, good, so. All right, so that was this first bit. Sorry, I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit. So just this is kind of just a note to say, my understanding is that the West District, the idea is to follow the village center existing guidelines, and then for the East, that's the purpose of this 40R district design guidebook, which is from 2008, so it's very old at this point. But since it's a 40R specific design document, I think it's geared towards those higher densities. So I would ask that you all, if you have time before our next meeting, ideally, if you could just review these documents
Yeah.
and see what you think about them as a jumping off point.
Maybe take 2 different highlighters through it and highlight things you like and highlight things you question. And add red notes, and then we can come back. That's our homework.
Yeah. Okay, great.
from the design guidelines.
Yeah, and I think in the, I'm not sure exactly how we're gonna do it for the East District, but for the West District, I think the idea was, unless there are substantial tweaks.
Why
The-
would we,
Oh,
sorry,
no, go ahead.
why won't we just adopt the whole thing?
That's what I was gonna say, that for the West District, you could just say, look at this
Yeah.
design guideline, and then you don't have to create a new one. That doesn't quite work for the East one,
Yeah.
because there's no town-specific document to reference, but that would at least solve half of the problem. As long as everybody thinks that the design is good, of course. Okay. You're all feeling ready to move on. I know we only have 20 minutes left. I wanted to just give you takeaways from the conversation that Kyle and I had with Bill way back when. Now feels like it was ages ago, but it was right before Kyle left. and I sat in on the call. Basically, it's not a huge amount, and it's probably stuff you might already know, but Bill gave us an update on the status of the 40R program. I don't know if this is something that you were all curious about or not, but essentially there is some discussion around changing the regulations and also changing some of the payments that you get, the incentive payments. Basically, my understanding from that discussion is all of that is on hold indefinitely. I mean, I'm sure it'll be addressed at some point, but the takeaway was bandwidth is very limited and the budget is constrained. So, yeah, there is, some new material around 40Y, which I don't know if I know that that's a whole other. We've been talking about 40R for a while, but 40Y is it's a similar program that was created a little bit after 40R that allows for, it's kind of tailored more toward rural areas. So something to consider, but I know we've been working with 40R. It's just something to have in the back of your minds, perhaps, if you felt like looking into it. I think 40R does allow for everything that we're wanting to do. But, so as far as the district boundaries, I know that at one point there was a discussion, or there has been a discussion about, for at least the West District, I think it was following the existing business zones boundaries. The concern with that, which Kyle brought up to Bill, was that that district as it exists right now cuts through lots of parcels. Because it's something like, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, it's something like a certain number of 100 feet from the highway, from the road,
Right.
right? It's like 200 feet or something like
Right.
that.
So that might be something that we want to go and see if it makes sense to
Yeah.
tweak the boundaries.
Yeah, basically, Bill was saying that there's no rule saying you can't bisect parcels, but their concern with that would be the potential impact on developability. So if you have a parcel that's like a big parcel, but like a small section of it is within the 40R district and the rest of it isn't, like what can you really develop in that little portion that's within the district? So the takeaway really is ideally the district boundary should encompass full parcels rather than split parcels. So just something to note. There was a little bit on substantially developed land, basically saying that there's no zoning incentive payment until development occurs on that land, and the onus is on the town to show that the land is developable. So basically anything that's like existing commercial or even parking lots that are required due to zoning regulations would be counted as substantially developed. So that would reduce the zoning incentive payment, which, isn't the end of the world probably, but something to keep in mind. And then the last thing was around student housing and affordability. You can't restrict student housing was the takeaway. It's a fair housing issue. And it sounds like there was some conversation around between you all, I think, about affordability ranges below 80% AMI, and basically allowing or requiring that the affordable housing be set to a lower threshold than 80% area median income, like 60%.
Or doing some of those and some, yeah.
Yeah.
So if you have to provide,
Like, I think you're saying if, like, let's say a building has 10% affordable, like 5 of them has to be 60% or low and the other
yeah,
5 could be 80%. Is that what you're?
I think that's where I was going.
Yeah.
Okay.
With that, was to offer grades of, so that if you can't, if you make too much for this one, you still have a
So,
option.
Yeah.
so jumping back to the,
Oh, yeah, sure.
just, before I forget, the student housing chart.
Mhm.
I think the question was, if you, like, if we have affordable housing and a student applies as an individual, and then they have multiple students staying there, is that allowed?
So if the student applies individually and then like they're the only tenant on the lease and then
Yes.
they just have other people living there,
Yeah, I don't know how enforcement gets handled.
that would hopefully, I mean, the landlord would be.
But I don't know if that's, yeah, but with the Does it jeopardize the spirit of 40R? That's kind of the question I had.
Well, it wouldn't be, I don't know. I mean, that's not something that I've personally encountered tackling in a zoning bylaw. I would say that if that, you're saying that I don't think that you can really
Yeah.
do anything about that in the zoning bylaw, to be honest,
Yeah.
that I'm familiar with.
I'm thinking of scenarios where, let's say, two older retired guys can't afford to, they each need to sell their houses. Hey, I could live with you, let's get a 2-bedroom or something. They're unrelated.
Yeah.
But they are friendly, at least get along. I think we're sympathetic to that, to people, downsizing and wanting to stay in town. We are not sympathetic to a bunch of undergrads, and the shenanigans that we associate with that, which is not always the case. But, we tend to think grad students might be a little calmer, a little quieter, more studious. The undergrads are more party animals.
Yeah.
So as a community, I think we're not sympathetic to that, but
Mhm.
but I don't see how you dictate, like, there's been talk about saying non-related. But you can have, neighbors that wanna get one unit and basically use it, like the odd couple.
Yeah, but there's usually, I think, I know more than 3 unrelated.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not, I'd have to go back to my school days for this, but I feel like there was a legal case about this type of thing, and they did not allow you to restrict based on relation.
Yeah,
So I'm not sure that that would fly. I don't know that you could specify it has to be like a family member. I'm pretty sure that
yeah,
there's some, I could find the case, but something in the back of my mind is saying that that is not
right.
legal.
Whatever, Amherst has something,
Do they have something?
I'm
Okay.
pretty sure.
Oh, well,
But, I mean-
I'd be curious to know.
Plus, if you're saying this is, there are 2 people on this lease, or this is 2-bedroom, and there's all of a sudden 6 people staying there,
Hmm.
there's,
Well, sure. I mean, if there's 2 people on the lease and there's 6 people who are living there, that's a problem insofar as like that's not allowed in the lease. So
Yeah.
that they're doing something illegal and we can't really
But
do.
I don't know if that's something that the town or Board of Health or something like
Yeah,
that.
if they were caught, they would be forced to leave. So, that is an issue that at least in a legal sense is already kind of taken care of. People still do it, of course, but they have to do it covertly. We can't do anything about that. So yeah, so I don't know. I mean, we can keep thinking about it, but the takeaway from Bill was that you just can't restrict based on age in the sense of like outside of the very limited things that we've talked about regarding, senior housing and things like that. And based on occupation, which would kind of be like student would be an occupation. So, and okay, so to really just touch on that last point again, for the 80% AMI or lower question, Bill's thought was just that they need to make sure that there aren't restrictions in place that basically prevent the area from actually being developed. And the issue that they see is that deeper affordable, and this makes me sad to say, but deeper affordability levels require greater subsidy, and subsidies are at such a premium right now that they would question something that said like a bylaw that, I know this isn't what you're suggesting, but let's say is like all affordable housing has to be at 30%, which is just not realistically going to happen.
It's almost like homeless.
Yeah, so I mean, a town implementing that would basically be saying, in effect, we're not gonna have any housing because nobody's gonna be able to do that. It's gonna be so limited. So it's a case by case basis, but veering on like, we'd like, UHLC is saying they'd like to see affordability levels that can be met at least theoretically without subsidy or with minimal subsidy, which would be like 80%, maybe 60%.
And the 80%, it's below 80%, so it includes the below 30%. It just means that there's more people in the lottery,
Yeah,
that it's,
in rents, if you say 80%, rents will be set at 80%.
Can we do, local preference, or that's a landlord thing? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I think the answer is no, but
Yeah.
I can like
Yeah,
just
I
do
don't,
some research.
I don't know if that applies here.
Yeah,
It just came to mind because I remember there was a, I think it was Valley CDC did a project up in Thunder. And they talked about what the percent, and we debated here, what the local percentage would be if we approved the, tunnel launch, conversion. And that part of the argument for the town accepting it was that we could stipulate 30%, local preference,
Mhm.
so that at least 30%, percent would be reserved. And if you don't get that many, then it goes to,
Yeah,
But that probably, we don't want to throw any more restrictions on this
yeah,
than we need to.
Yeah.
That was a separate project.
okay. Okay, and yeah, that might be something you could tackle on more of a case by case basis. Okay, I know we only have 10 minutes left.
Can you send us this?
Oh yeah, I can send you this. I could also send you the notes from Kyle, which, but yeah, I can send you either or both. Okay, do we have any other thoughts on
Bills.
on these takeaways?
Sense.
Okay.
You sure, Andrew, any questions, thoughts? I didn't mean to not say your name.
No, I've been talking. I
You
know.
know, I think, like you said before, I think we're gonna have to present this to the planning board to get their input.
All right, well, the other thing that I had, and I know we've got 10 minutes or 9 minutes, so we're not gonna get too far in this. And we don't have to even address it tonight if we're feeling over this, but the idea was to talk about district boundaries. This on the screen here, this is the feedback from, folks, who filled out, and sorry, you can't read the text on here, but I can zoom in. But folks who attended the community engagement workshop that we did, the two that we held, and yeah, this is what they were thinking for the two different districts. It's kind of, I think, along the lines of what has been thought about throughout this process.
Yeah. It
So
looks like it goes to West Street.
Can you make it any bigger?
It goes east,
and let me see.
and it looks like it might go to that rail trail crossing.
Let me know where you want me to zoom in.
So, yeah, that's West Street, right?
That's what,
So it comes along to the rail trail crossing is right there, so it's, yeah,
Middle Valley.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll also, I saw in the, sorry, I'll zoom out for just 1 second. Oh, God.
And the idea is to keep it within walking distance of the
Rail trail.
public transit.
Yeah.
And the rail trail.
I also noted that Kyle created this. Oh, it's going to change in a second, just a delay. Kyle created this. I found this in the folder. I don't know if this was like a more formalized thing that you would all discussed or if he just did this, but I wanted to bring it up because it's like a refinement.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. That doesn't mean anyone else has, but
No, that's a cut there, right? These are,
That's a cut.
These
Yeah,
are
yeah,
two different
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. These are separate images.
okay.
So yeah, that's just east and west.
so I think that's 116 up there. No, what is that?
This is north and south Maple. I think that's the mall, right?
Yeah,
That's one of the malls. And it looks like it goes over to,
yeah.
116.
goes over to the fish,
Fish and
whatever.
Wildlife.
Yeah, 116.
Can you go back to the other one?
Yeah.
And is that really Mill Valley or is it goes past Mill Valley?
It looks like it was trying to catch that little triangle before you get to the storage. And there is a business in there. There's a landscape business or something. But I think there might be a house in that little corner.
Can you make that bigger again?
Yeah, do you want me to zoom in on
Yeah.
that, this area?
Oh, so it's past Mill Valley.
It looks like it's using a certain distance off of there.
Mhm.
And then there's the, what's her name, storage.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Is that ideal? Yeah. Yeah, there's a house right, or at least there was in that corner.
You can see like a
Still-
tiny little footprint,
Yeah,
building footprint right
yeah,
there.
there's two houses there.
are there? Okay.
Is that Mill Valley? Yeah, I believe
Yeah.
there's two living.
And I think there's something up here, like an old used car.
Yeah, there's the old, used to be an old Ford dealership, and further right, there was a house, well, there is a house there, but I don't know if it's being utilized or not.
I'm just not sure why, how that got chosen.
Well, I don't know, this was just,
This was one of our public engagements. and
Yeah.
Somebody took
Yeah,
and said, how about that? And then we talked about it, and I don't know,
that's pretty much it, yeah,
Yeah.
there's no deeper,
somebody else said, what about that? And
yeah, exactly.
obviously, somebody wants to, I live here, so somebody wanted to put them
Yeah,
right behind me. Oh, okay.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think, obviously not now, but maybe next time or sometime really soon, I think it would be really great if we could sit down. I know it's really difficult, but to sit down, everybody with like a marker and actually mark up the boundaries. So then we really know exactly what we're talking about, and we don't have questions around, which street does it go to and what is, where is it gonna affect exactly? And I have the map, so we didn't get to it today, but next time perhaps we could try and do that along with the design discussion. That could be the focus of the next meeting, because that might take a while, really, to do the boundaries.
Oh, I wonder what the blue was.
The blue is just, I think, somebody with a blue marker.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if they were saying that the east should come and touch the,
Well, oh, here, let me zoom out. Oh,
I think, yeah, it was
too
like
much.
supposed to be
It was
like,
supposed to be the west. The blue is, this was
Yeah.
the west one, or one version.
I think that's the east, you mean.
I'm sorry, yeah.
They might be showing that that's what this, I think the state said, why don't you do this? And, I know that at least Joe on the planning board said, yeah, that's not, they wanted this huge swath, and he's like, oh, you could have, I forgot, I want to say like 1,500 units and, although when you look at the developable lots.
That's always the question, right? It's not just the land area. It's what's,
what are the red dots?
I think those were actual sites.
yeah, I think it's just points of interest people wanted to,
Mhm.
yeah. And then we have comments here. So 3-story apartments, duplexes where one apartment is owner occupied, apartments with usable outdoor space, townhouses. Sheila's writing in there, their thoughts.
I mean, what would be useful for me is being able to put that map together with what's there now, really, in real time, houses, businesses,
Right.
et cetera.
So, yeah,
Like, just like to see it in a satellite view or
Yeah,
something.
like, I don't know if you're on, Google Maps, if it's there, just so get an idea what's really developable.
yeah, I mean, this does have, I know it's not what you're asking for exactly, but it does have building footprints.
Okay.
So you
Yeah,
can
when you
see.
get closer, yeah.
Yeah, when you get a little closer, you can see that, doesn't tell you exactly. There's another map that has the land use type.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So it's a little hard
so
to,
you could see where it's swampy or where it's,
yeah, and also just like what's commercial right now, what's residential, it's just different from what the zoning is. It's what's actually there in the ground.
yeah, it would be good to overlay flood zones. Cause I know if you
Yeah.
go back there you scroll down. Or,
Down?
so I'm sorry, if you bring the top back into
Oh,
there was a blue
Over here.
sticky note.
Right there.
Yeah, that blue sticky note is 116, which is basically everything to the east of that is pretty wooded, swampy.
Yeah, I think it's really hard to see on here, but there are those, see the little markings here.
Little
I
marsh.
think that's supposed to show marsh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But, I do have another version of this map this version was the one we gave to people to mark up because it's easy to see marker on it, but there's another version that has more detail. So I could send those along in an email. If that would be
Sure.
helpful. I'm not sure if it would be,
Then we
but
can each kind of zoom in on our own
Yeah.
computer.
you can at least look at it and just know that, next meeting, the idea is gonna be at least start to figure
Yeah.
out the boundaries, really, put pen to paper.
Yeah, if we each have ideas and we each have that image on our computer, we can zoom in and take a screenshot and
Yeah, exactly.
bring those to the next meeting.
Okay, so yeah, the homework is just think about the boundaries, and I'm gonna send you these images and everything in the next couple days, and if you can, please read through those design guidelines. Okay,
Thank you, sir.
yeah, of course, thank you all.
How did we do on your agenda?
I think we hit everything.
Do we have to vote for meeting adjourned?
You have to pick a date.
We do, and when do we want to meet next?
Yeah.
25th?
I'm gonna be away the last 2 weeks in February.
Then,
I prefer not to do it.
no, I'm gone the 18th, so that's kind
The 18th is not good for you?
yeah, 11th?
That's
Or is that too soon?
doable. That's only, is that 1, 2, 3 weeks away?
Yes. Is that enough time? Do we
Yeah.
wanna?
Yeah, I think that's, want to do February 11th?
Yeah, I could do the 11th.
4:30 to 6?
Yeah.
Andrew, does that work for you?
We're talking about Wednesday,
February
February
11th.
11th, 4:30 to 6 for,
11th works for me.
all right, well, you're noting that down.
Yeah.
Anything else anyone wants to discuss before we, at 6:02, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second,
You would say, any discussion? All in favor? Dunn, aye. Williams, aye.
Farmer, aye.
Farmer, aye.
Fanatic
Andrew?
eye.
All right,
Aye.
we are adjourned.
All right.